found this desk at an estate sale. Actually, there was a whole set, including 9 drawers dresser, a tall boy, and a pair of nightstands, which I was already drooling over. But to my disappointment, the dressers and the nightstands had been claimed by the relatives, leaving only this old, well-worn desk up for grabs. Hi everybody, welcome to another makeover. If you're the one who missed my voiceover, hi, I'm back, and I missed you too. If you're the one who followed my channel because I didn't have any voiceovers, sorry to disappoint, but there will be some. And if you're one of those who hate my taste in music, sorry again. As much as I would love to keep my shop sounds, my furnace kicks in every time I start filming, and it makes a lot of noise, so I'm keeping the music. With that being said, let's get to work, and first I need to get rid of this old finish. The stripper I use is Solvable Heavy Duty Paint Stripper, and it's my new favorite. Don't confuse it with Solvable Paint Remover, that one barely works. This is heavy duty one, and not only does it work great, it is also reusable. Someone might find it gross, but oh well. The whole idea of furniture flipping is upcycling, so why not upcycle the paint stripper? And with the prices for the paint strippers these days, I think it's a huge bonus. I used to work with circa 1850 paint stripper and it was great, but this one is better. Sanding with 120 grit sandpaper helps to remove most of the scratches and some stains, but I still had many left. And what do we do in this case? Right, we use an oxalic acid. I mixed it in 1:10 ratio with some hot water, applied it to the whole top, and left it to dry. And while the top was still drying, I decided to disassemble the piece because it would be easier to work with. I almost managed to do that. The front piece with the leg was glued quite well, so I decided to leave it in place and work around it. And while I was doing that, somewhere in between stripping, sanding, repairing, and everything else, I did clean the top. I deactivated the oxalic acid with baking soda solution first, and then I washed the top 3 times. Somehow I didn't catch it on camera, but I promise I did. After 3 rounds of sanding with 120, 180, and 220 grit sandpaper, I was ready to stain the bottom of the desk. I don't usually stain walnut, I prefer to keep it natural color, but I do like how Restore Finish enhanced the wood grain. It doesn't change the color, well, maybe just a little, but it adds contrast and it makes the wood grain pop. Because Restore Finish contains a bit of mineral oil, I usually let it to dry for about 24 hours before applying any top coat, especially water-based. And in 24 hours, just to be on a safe side, I use an alcohol as a degreaser and I wipe off the surfaces before applying the top coat. But not all the parts were covered with walnut veneer. The back panel was mahogany plywood. The front plank was solid walnut, but the back and the side panels, they were made of birch and the legs were made of oak. Of course, all of those wood pieces would absorb the stain differently, but just out of curiosity, I wanted to see how they would look with just Restore Finish on them. Surprisingly, birch turned out not too bad. Lighter than walnut, but I could live with that. But the legs were way too light. To blend in this lighter wood tone, I applied very thin oil-based early American wood stain, but I didn't wipe it off. I left a little bit on the surface and I left it to dry. Usually for oil-based stain, you need 24 hours before applying any water-based top coat, but because I left a fair amount of stain on the surface, I let it sit for 3 days. I applied it on Friday morning and then there was a weekend for it to completely dry. With oxalic acid, I was able to remove some watermarks, but not all of them. And I also had this stain, this greenish one. It looked like it was ink or something. As a last resort, I decided to try paint stripper. It had worked for me in the past as a stain remover, but unfortunately not this time. I also had some discoloration all over the top. It's hard to see without the top coat being applied, but it's there. The areas where the finish was worn off faded more than the areas where it was still intact. And this is the compromise I always have to make. Either try to mask those stains and discolorations and apply several coats of tinted lacquer toner, but this way the wood grain will be less pronounced. Or I keep everything the way it is, all those signs of wear, and I have the wood grain. I'm not against either option, but lately I've been leaning towards the second one because I love the wood grain and I'm okay to have some imperfections. On one side of the top was this big hole. It wasn't just the veneer, there was a huge chunk of chipboard missing. I decided to fill this hole with epoxy mixed with some sawdust. After 3 rounds of sanding, this time on the top, I applied Restore Finish to the outer side of the top and Early American Wood Stain to the inner side. And I left everything to dry over the weekend. On Monday, I was pretty much ready to apply the top coat, but first I needed to do some blending. I like to use gouache paint, but it is really sensitive to any water-based top coat, so instead of using water here, I mix it with polyurethane. This way, once it's dry, it's pretty much like a tinted poly, and I can go ahead and apply top coat over it. Everything was going smoothly until I started working on the top. With first strokes, I didn't realize what was happening because polyurethane itself is a little bit milky and then it dries clear. But then when I saw that it was turning white, I was halfway through, I just couldn't stop doing it. I figured that it was better to continue, let it dry, and then to deal with that. I had a strong feeling of deja vu because something like that had happened to me before, twice. And of course, this time I wasn't expecting anything good either. But what I saw an hour later exceeded all my expectations and turned out to be even worse. This is the top, and I could literally peel the finish off with my fingers. Probably just to blow on the top would be enough for the finish to start coming off. When this happened to me for the first time, I thought I had done something wrong. Maybe I hadn't washed the top properly. When it happened to me for the second time, I deactivated the oxalic acid with baking soda solution before applying poly. And still, something similar happened. Poly dried with some whitish spots in some places, so I still had to sand everything down again and reapply the top coat. And this time, knowing that something like this might happen, not only did I deactivate the oxalic acid, but I also washed it 3 more times. So it is definitely the oxalic acid because with surfaces where I didn't use it, nothing like this happened. But I realized that it's not just the oxalic acid, but also this particular polyurethane that reacts with it. Because before, when I worked with the same oxalic acid, but I applied different brand of polyurethane, I didn't have any issues. And I think what led to this catastrophic result was a combination of all the factors. Oxalic acid, probably restore finish, and the polyurethane. I was able to peel off the top coat with this wooden stick. Then I sanded it off camera and just in case reapplied the baking soda solution. I'm not sure if it did anything, but once it was dry, I sanded the top one more time and reapplied the same polyurethane, and this time it turned out perfect. With that being said, we are done. Let's have a quick look at the before. And here's the after. Enjoy the final results. Thank you so much for watching and see you in my next video. And don't forget to subscribe.
Everything transforms from old to gold. We're taking something warm, making